Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great show to bring you today about life and work in rural America. It's early January, and in our part of the country, football and basketball season are both going strong. From high school to college to the pros, there are games to watch every night. And as the season progresses, those games get bigger and bigger. Today, we're taking a pause from our focus on marketing to rural America, and we're trying out a new format. I've got my old friend, former basketball star, coach, and now announcer Kim Anderson on today, and we're talking Chiefs, Mizzou, the transfer portal, NIL, and all things sports. If you like it, you never know. We might just spin up another podcast in the future. So stay with us and let's have some fun and let us know what you think. Welcome back to Outdrive, Kim.
Hey, thanks, Cliff. Great to be here. Great to be in studio here at the complex at the Callis building and right across from Heber Hunt School.
Yeah, where you went to grade school, right?
That's right.
Well, thanks again for being on Outdrive. I know we're kind of doing a test and taking a more dialogue kind of approach, conversational approach to what's happening in the world of sports and life. Of course, we're out in rural America, so there's our tie to the Outdrive podcast. And sports are big out here, and we're pretty fortunate, really. I mean, we live an hour from Kansas City, an hour from Columbia, hour from Lake of the Ozarks, a half hour from Warrensburg. So we got the Chiefs, we got the Mules, we got the Tigers, we got the Bears if you go a little bit further south. You got the Cardinals and the Royals. I mean, there's a lot of great sports. And then you got all the high school sports, junior high sports, youth sports. We got a lot to talk about. I guess if we start dissecting fourth, fifth grade basketball games, we might get a little granular with our discussions. It might appeal to a few people, but we'll keep it a little higher level than that. Let's start out talking about the Chiefs. You know, we're recording this. It's Wednesday, the 15th of January. This episode's going to air on Tuesday, the 21st. So it will be after the Chiefs play the Texans at home on Saturday afternoon. What do you think about the Chiefs' chances for that game? I think they're 7-point favorites today?
Yeah, I think that game, obviously you got to play well. I think the Texans have played decently here down the stretch, but I think that's a game that the Chiefs should win. Of course, we're going to say that's a game the Chiefs should always win, the next three games probably, but I think that they're superior to the Texans. They beat the Texans not too long ago, so I would think they would win that game. But I do think in typical Chiefs fashion this year, it could be interesting. And if I were betting, which I'm not, I wouldn't bet that it's going to come down to the wire. But the way the Chiefs have gotten by this year, I think that could be a possibility. There could be some late game heroics, as there has been in so many games this year.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a close game. You know, when the Chiefs played them before, I was pretty impressed with the Texans, and particularly C.J. Stroud. For a young quarterback, he looked really mature. He throws a really nice football. I mean, he throws a good pass. It's accurate. It's catchable. Of course, he's got some good receivers, but I agree with you. I think this is a game the Chiefs ought to win. I think they'll take care of business and move on and then win. And if they do, that next game is going to be pretty tough. Well, the two after that will be, of course. But, you know, you got the Bills playing the Ravens on Sunday. And, man, that's going to be a war.
Yeah, I think that the Bills beat the Chiefs early on, right? If I got my year straight. obviously they've got a good feel for what the Chiefs do. Ravens are good too. You know, Cliff, teams with elite quarterbacks tend to rise, especially in the postseason. And as you look at those teams, you know, all of those teams have elite quarterbacks. And it's kind of like the point guard for a basketball team. If you don't have a good point guard, you're going to have to struggle. You're going to struggle, or you're going to have to come up with something. You know, in football, maybe you got to have a good offensive line and a good running back, and he throws short passes all the time. But I think that next game I think that'll be a really, really good test for the Chiefs. And then after that, obviously, who do you think? Detroit Lions? I've watched them several times, and they're very impressive. So these next 2-3 weeks will be pretty exciting for all of us here in this area, because most people in this area that I've talked to or I've seen more Chiefs gear than anything. So I think there's a lot of Chiefs fans in this area. And you know, we talk about rural America. I mean, Chiefs are kind of their team.
Well, they are. You know, we're kind of out here in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, even I was reading an article, and it's been some time ago, talking about how St. Louis had also adopted Chiefs. Of course, they hate the Rams, right? Because Kroenke took them away.
No, they're not tied with the Rams.
They're not tied to the Rams anymore. So St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. The Chiefs are in Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas, for those.
Not yet.
Yeah, well, not yet. Yeah. There was a lot of St. Louis people that have adopted the Chiefs as their team, which I think is really cool. But you're right. You know, out in rural America, the Chiefs are well-liked, very popular. Of course, Mahomes is a generational superstar, probably the best quarterback of our generation, or at least one of the top ones. And people aspire to that. I think the next couple of weeks are going to be really fun, really interesting. You know, personally, I think I'd like to see the Chiefs Detroit match up for the Super Bowl. I really like Detroit. They almost look unbeatable, frankly, as easily as they move the ball and how dominant their defense is and how tenacious their coach is. So to match them up against the Chiefs' approach.
Yeah, you know, something else that's interesting that I've read about lately is Mahomes has seemed to be kind of taken for granted by the national media. You know, the Pro Bowl, Mahomes was not selected to the Pro Bowl. And, you know, I haven't looked at the stats. I don't know if the stats are really good or if they're down. They're probably down a little bit this year. But, man, the guy's won a lot of games. And he's made a lot of plays at the ends of games to win games. So I think while the Chiefs had a 15-2 record, I think maybe people are not around here. I'm just talking on a national basis. I think they talk a lot about the Chiefs got lucky. Well, they got lucky because they got a good quarterback that can make plays at the end of the game, and they got good receivers, and their defense has been good. So I think it'll be exciting over the next 3 or 4 weeks to see how this plays out.
Winners win, right?
Winners win. That's the thing about Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is a winner, and he knows how to win, and he can take a team and teach them how to win and will them to win. And so I think it'll be exciting. You know, I know a lot of people in this area will be glued to the TV set or in the Arrowhead Stadium watching the game and see where it goes.
It's a fun time of year. We're right in the heart of basketball season. I'm a college basketball fan. I'm not real big on the NBA. You know, I love high school basketball too, and you get to some of those games, boys and girls. But, you know, we're right in the heart of basketball season. Of course, you're the color guy for the Mules and Jennies at UCM. How are those seasons going for those teams?
Well, both teams, it's been interesting. The Jennies have traditionally been very, very strong over the past several years, won a national championship, and I believe it was 2018. This year, they've kind of slid a little bit. I think they're 9-8 right now, but they're only 1-5 maybe in the MIAA. They've lost 4 or 5 games in a row. So it's been a little bit of a tough season for them so far. The thing about basketball, I think there's 13 games left. I think they just crossed the halfway point last weekend. And so there's still a lot of games to go. The Jennies have a couple of really good players, and they have a young player that's really, really going to be good I think, from Wathena, Kansas, and Taylor Weisher, I think her name is. So she's fun to watch. She's a freshman. The Mules, on the other hand, the Mules are right at 500. I think they're 7-8 now. 2-4 in the MIAA. Had a rough weekend last weekend. 2 home games. Lost to Northwest Missouri on a buzzer beater from 3, and then lost to Missouri Western right down the stretch. Ended up, I think, losing by maybe 4. So it's been a little tough sledding. The Mules have a second-year coach, Adam Bohach, who came from Southern Nazarene, who was very, very successful. And personally, from my standpoint, I think he's a guy that can bring that program back to where we all would like to see it. And then obviously over on the women's side, Dave Slifer, I think, is in his 21st year, won a ton of games. He's the winningest all-time active coach, I think. So I look for them. I look for both teams to play a little better here down the stretch. I think they're starting to figure out who to play. The Mules have tried to play a lot of players. The Jennies don't have a lot of players. They did just add a young lady from Australia at the break, and she looks like she can make some significant contributions. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we go down the stretch here with 13 games to go. And then, the goal obviously is to get into the MIAA tournament and then go from there and see what happens. The MIAA, the league itself on the men's side, is pretty much a one-team race now. I think Washburn is head and shoulders above everybody else. So there's a lot to play for, and there's a lot of bunched up teams there as we head into the final 13 games.
Well, I bet if you think that both those teams are going to win a few games over the rest of the season, I bet they do, because you've got a pretty good handle and understanding of the game of basketball. Are you enjoying being on the air?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's fun. It's a lot more fun when you win. I try not to be too complicated. I actually do some work. I do some research. I kind of know the other team, and I haven't gotten to where I sit down and watch video yet of the other team. I kind of got out of that when I retired, but I do enjoy it very much. I work with a great guy, Greg Hassler, who's been there, oh my goodness, a long time, probably 20 plus years, and he makes things pretty easy. And all I basically have to do is talk. He lets me do the halftime show. And other than that, it's a different look than it was coaching. Coaching, you had to worry about the next play or the defense or whatever. This is like painting a picture, you're just watching the game and telling the people what happened. And you try not to get too complicated, yet you want to describe what's happening, not be too complicated so that the average fan can understand what you're talking about. That's my philosophy, and I don't know if that's right or wrong.
I think you're right on target. When in advertising, when we talk about radio advertising, we talk about theater in the mind. And that's what you're talking about here, is painting that picture so somebody can be sitting out there listening to it on a radio, but seeing it in their mind and visualizing what's happening. And you're good at that. I don't know whether it's natural. I know you've always been a very social person, and you're a great communicator. A question that pops into my mind, because I do know you prepare for these games, is like, what percentage of what you say is right off the cuff versus prepared remark?
Oh, I'd say 90% off the cuff and 10% off of the work that I do to prepare for the game. I know when I prepare for the game, what it does for me is it helps me learn the players better, especially the opposing team. As far as the Mules and Jennies, I've seen them play multiple games now, so it's not that big a deal. But we play Newman on this Thursday, which will be obviously this is going to come out next week. We play Newman at home on Thursday and play Emporia State at home on Saturday. Well, we haven't played Newman yet, but so you go through and try to figure out a little bit about each team. I know the coaches. I don't call them, but I might talk to them before the game. And in Emporia State, we've already played. We beat them a couple of weeks ago in Emporia. None of it's hard. It just, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get everything. Now, you try to look for little nuggets that the fans would like, but they're not too complicated, So we may talk about Newman. Newman is 10-5, but 4 of their wins have been against non-Division II teams. Well, the Mules are 7-8, but they've only played one non-Division II team. So the record sometimes is deceiving in Division II, and that's why when I get to about 10 games, right now I think we're on game 7, I tend to start paying more attention to just statistics from conference games only instead of overall statistics, because there's obviously some inflated statistics when Newman plays Spurgeon. And I don't even know where Spurgeon is. But, the score is going to be 95-47. Well, that figures into their statistics for the season. So probably after about this weekend, and I'll probably throw away the overall stats and just pretty much look at the conference stats, because I think it gives a better resemblance of what you need to do to prepare for a game and how good a team is really, because now they're playing against conference teams.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I tell you, it's from a listener point of view, I think you could pretty much always tell who's prepared to be on the air and who is maybe not as prepared. And I know experience plays into that as well. And I'm guessing that you would agree with this statement that the more games you do, the more comfortable and confident you are, and the better you perform, right?
Oh, yeah, no question. I know the first game I ever did, Greg said, "Hey, you're going to do the halftime show." And just he was going to get up and use the restroom and just kind of walk around a little bit. And he said, "All right, well, after this commercial, there's going to be bumper music, and then you press the button here, and then you're on." And well, the bumper music stopped, and I think I pressed the wrong button. And so I was I was just talking to myself, and I couldn't hear anything on my headset. And then finally, after about 30 seconds, I heard another commercial come on. So I was like, well, I messed up my first one. So I actually I don't need it anymore, but I actually had a little cheat sheet to use so that I knew what to say when I came back on. But once you do it, I mean, I could go in there and do a game without not prepping. I mean, I could, but to me, it wouldn't be fair to the listener, and it wouldn't be as much fun for me. I still, the broadcasting part of it kind of keeps you strategizing. You still strategize. Hey, what would you do if you were coach? And hey, here's a timeout with 4 seconds left and out of bounds underneath the basket. What play you going to run? So I don't know. It kind of keeps you in the game, because honestly, I've told you before, I don't really miss coaching, and I don't miss some of the things that went into it. So this has been kind of enough to keep my basketball mind in and working, and it's real easy. You never lose a game. That's the one thing about broadcasting. I got it fixed up, so I parked my car right outside the Hughes Center on the east end. And as soon as the game's over, I just stand up and I turn the automatic start on and get it warmed up. And then a couple minutes later, walk out the door and you're home. Head home.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the locker room, give the pep talk,
No.
play the game ball and all that. You hit the road. So, I do think that your coaching experience perspective helps you be a better broadcaster. Because people I think love, I think of Tony Romo. People either love or hate Tony, I think. kind of like Joe Buck. But I like Romo because he brings the perspective of playing in the situations that he's broadcasting. And he's right a lot of times with sort of speculating on what plays are going to run or what might work or how the teams are going to get set up. And I think people are interested in hearing that. I know I am as a listener. I like to hear what you as a former coach and player think the team's going to do on that out of bounds ball.
Yeah, and I'm just doing it this is a small scale compared to what a guy like Tony Romo would be doing or Joe Buck or Troy Aikman or getting into Mike Kelly at Mizzou. It's a small, because obviously you don't have as large a listening audience. You don't have as many critiques. And, I'm not really on social media. So, and I don't think anybody would take the time to bash me on social media because of something I said at Central Missouri. But although when we do the television, which whenever you have a home game on the MIAA network, they actually use our feed, our broadcasting feed. So I try to be cognizant of that. I try to be complimentary to the other team when they do something well. I just think that's good. But imagine the preparation that Tony Romo has to go through, or any of those guys, Jim Nantz or whatever. The amount of preparation that they have to do is unbelievable because they can't. If they make a mistake, you're going to hear about it. And some people don't like their opinion or whatever, but I've always been interested in doing this type of stuff. And it's always been fun for me to do that. And, when you were coaching, you obviously do a lot of interviews and stuff, but being able to describe the game to people, and I'm not perfected. I mean, I need to get better. And it's funny when you sit there and then all of a sudden, something happens there. It's in your mind, but you have to get it from your mind to your mouth to project it. And I know what happened, but you have to be able to explain that. And sometimes that's challenging, but quickly. You got to do it quickly. You can't wait 25 seconds and say, oh, hey, back there, he was coming off a screen and that was a bad hedge. And that's why they scored. And they've already been down and back twice, scored 4 more points. So, but it's fun. I appreciate the opportunity and that Craig has given me and that, the school allows me to do it.
You got to be quick on your feet for sure, and you are. But, you're suggesting that you're on a small stage today, but, of course, you're on the podcast now. That's going to take it up a few notches. Plus, you never know who's out there listening to these games. And, ESPN might just come crawling along with it. He wants you to fly to Dallas to do a, Mavericks game, or who knows? Who knows where this might lead to, Kim? But I think at this point, it'd be a good time if somebody hasn't been listening to Mules games and they want to, where are they going to find them? How would they listen to you and Greg Haslett?
Well, around here, 98.5 is FM is the flagship station for the Mule Network. Probably you can pick that up here in Sedalia. It's a country and western station. There's many country fans out there. But the easiest way is obviously just to stream it on your phone, and that is you can either go to the UCM website and go to the schedule and just go down to the game that's being played or going to be played and just hit the little icon there of, I think it's a speaker or whatever it is, or WarrensburgRadio.com is the other way you can go, and you can go on there and you can stream it live there. So, yeah, it's a different world now with streaming. There's some schools that don't even have over-the-air broadcasts anymore. They just do streaming. And I don't know what direction we're headed, but I think that it's coming. It's coming.
I think we're all going to be there pretty soon. I think the question that probably people have as they think about, Division II sports, are these athletes getting paid? Are they under the NIL blanket? How's that work? at the B2 level?
Well, you and I have talked about this. Yeah, they could get paid. They could get paid at Division III. They can get paid at NAIA. They can get paid in junior college. The question is, where's the money? And you talk about the upcoming lawsuit called the House Settlement, which is named after a swimmer, I believe, from Arizona State, where schools are going to be allowed. It hasn't been completely settled yet, but schools are going to be allowed to distribute like $20 million or $22 million to their student athletes. And, primarily most of that's going to go to football, but some in football, men's basketball, and then women's basketball, and then it'll work down to volleyball and some of the softball, some of the other sports. But you can get paid, but there are some student athletes that get paid in Division II, but I don't think it's a major amount of money. I could throw a figure out and say $5,000 a year. There have been rumors that some get more, some really good players get more, but even more, I think, is like, 15 or 20,000. I mean, we're talking with some of the guys now and ladies now are getting 4 million. You read about some of that stuff. The Ohio State football team's payroll was $20 million this year. That's a lot of money. And you figure that quarterback's getting, Will Howard came from K-State. You figure he's probably getting a pretty good chunk of change. But as you follow this, and some people do, some people probably don't, but as you follow this, you notice that more and more quarterbacks who are good, are good. The quarterback from Georgia just left Georgia and went to Miami for a reported $4 million for 1 year. So it's more like free agency, and it's here to stay. It isn't going to change. It's probably going to get worse. Worse depends on how you define it. Student athletes are going to make more money, and almost to the point to where a fringe quarterback in NCAA Division I, you talk about a guy like Diego, whatever his name was from Vanderbilt. So he just filed a lawsuit and won to be able to play another year because he claimed that he wasn't able to earn NIL money when he was in junior college. Well, he's right. He couldn't. There was the rule at that time was not in effect. So he got another year. And because he's probably not a pro quarterback. He may be a backup or something, but he's not a first, second, third round pick. Heck, he just stays at Vanderbilt, makes $1 million, $1.5 million. I'm not so sure down the line if you won't see more student athletes stay in college longer because they can make more money than if they went to the NFL or the NBA. I don't know. It's kind of individual basis, try each person's different. But don't be surprised. And with the portal, most people probably have heard of the portal. The portal's pretty simple. You can put your name in, you can go anywhere you want every year. You can go to 4 schools in 4 years, you can go to 5 schools in 5 years. There's discussions now about giving them 5 years of eligibility instead of 4. So it's like, to me, it's just like pro. It's a little reduced from pro football or pro basketball, but you got agents. Before we came on, we talked about commercials. Some of the guys in Mizzou have their own deals, pizza deal, or Luther Burden had some sort of deal. And I know Mitchell, the player from Duke, he has a new deal today on something about onion rings. So they're making money too.
Well, I think it's okay.
We didn't have that back in the day.
Sorry about your deal, man.
Yeah.
You still did okay, I think, in the NBA and coaching college. We don't need to get into all that.
I got $200 one time for signing autographs with the Portland Trailblazers at JCPenney.
See, See, big money.
That's big time because none of the other guys would do it, but the rookie would go do it. I was like, $200? Yeah, I'll be there.
I mean, think about it. You're a professional athlete. Those people that were bringing the basketballs to get signed, that was pretty big stuff.
Oh, it was just a picture. It was, well, I would sign a ball too, yeah, if they brought one. Most of the people didn't know who I was. They just knew I was a trailblazer.
But you were tall.
And I was tall.
They still are.
Yeah, I was strong.
Haven't shrunk. No, I think the NIL is okay. I think, those athletes are bringing in revenue for the universities. It makes it easier for them to live and perform, display their talents. I think that's okay. I think having money in some respects is really out of hand. I mean, $4 million for Carson Beck to go to Miami that's a lot, but they surely know what they're doing. The portal, I'm getting more comfortable with it because I think it is bringing more parity at the major college level. And really, I'm sure that filters down into all the other levels too. But it used to be for me as a fan, I really enjoyed getting to know those players that came as a freshman. I mean, that came back as a sophomore. You watch them get better every year. Saw the team kind of grow together as coach molded his team into what it was. And then you could get excited about them. And then, you'd have a new one come in. But now you got to pretty much learn the team it's a new team every year for the most part. I mean, there's one or two holdovers, maybe three. But to get better, they got to bring in the transfer. And fortunately, you brought up Mizzou a little while ago. We've got Martin Mitchell from Duke, Caleb Grilke from Iowa State. And it's been kind of fun, to see how our coaches take those kids and put them together in the right format to make them a team, because they're all good, but it's a matter of how good are they going to be together. And fortunately, I think Mizzou's got a couple of coaches, football coach, basketball coach, that are pretty good at recruiting some new players and then putting together to make them a team.
And, play a little bit of a devil's advocate on that. I think a lot of that has to do with the NIL, with the money. If you read, and you can't believe everything you read, but I think Mizzou does a really good job with their distribution of money. And that helps attract certain people. Because face it, some of this, why would the quarterback at Georgia put his name in the portal and go to Miami? Well, maybe Georgia was paying him X amount of dollars and Miami's going to pay him $4 million. Well, it's a business deal. The other thing is when, guys don't get to play. And when you're not playing, then obviously you put your name in the portal and you try to go somewhere else. College sports now, and I just can talk about basketball because I lived it. To me, it's more about players negotiating their playing time in the office instead of on the floor. They're negotiating their playing time while they're being recruited, and that's hard on a coach. And the other thing that's hard for coaches nowadays is how hard can you coach this kid? Because if you upset him, or if he's not playing enough early in the season, he might just say, "Hey, see you later. I'm going in the portal. I'm going somewhere else." And, he might be a guy who, boy, if you stayed around a couple of years, you could develop him. So it's harder for coaches to develop now than I think it used to be because kids don't stay around. I mean, I don't even know. I know at UCM we had 5 or 6 stay around from last year, but so I think we have like 8 new guys maybe. Mizzou probably has something similar to that, maybe more, because, obviously they didn't have the year that they wanted to have last year. So you can run them off. You used to couldn't do that. You used to couldn't bring a guy in and say, "Hey, now I'm cutting your scholarship." You had to have a reason, and usually the reason was hey, you can stay here and you can stay on scholarship, but you're not going to be on the team. That was kind of the way you tried to run them off, because you figure, hey, I'm going to go. They want to play, so they're going to go somewhere else. Every once in a while, though, you'll get that hard head that'll say, okay, I'll just stay around, you know. But now you can just pretty much, it's like, got them. And then they go to the portal and they try to go somewhere else. And then they try to negotiate their position with the coach during the recruitment process. That's hard on a coach, because you really can't make that promise. You really can't make that promise, because go back a year ago to Mizzou's team. I'm sure that Dennis Gates thought last year when he brought those guys in that they were all good players, but they just didn't fit together. And I've had teams like that, and that's when you really earn your money, is when you have teams that, for whatever reason, they just don't fit. It's not even a matter of liking or not liking each other. It's just like they don't fit. This guy has a different mentality than this guy. So, coaching is fascinating. It is a business now. I think we maybe talked about this on the last podcast, is that when you're a coach now at a major college or football or basketball, and really probably a lot of other Olympic sports too, you're not just a coach, you're the CEO, you're the chief executive officer, and you got to surround yourself with good people. It's like running Callis here, You got to have good people around you. In any business that you got to have good people around you, and it's the same thing with coaching. You can't do everything yourself. I've tried to do it, and you can't do it. So that's something that's made it a little bit more difficult on coaching.
Yeah, that's a great point. Of course, it's all changing. It just continues to evolve, and it's going to be interesting to see where college sports goes with the NIL and the portal and social media driving so much information. It's a whole new world, a little different than back when we had 3 networks and you couldn't hardly even watch sports on TV. It's a new world. But as we wrap up today, first, thanks again for being on. Folks, kind of doing a test here. So if you like what you heard, let us know. We'll probably do another one at least, and maybe another one after that, and see how this new format develops. And Coach, appreciate you being with us today. Got a busy weekend ahead, I know, both broadcasting and watching. Hopefully when we get back together again, we'll be talking more about Chiefs' successes going into the Super Bowl and possibility of all that works out. So thanks again for being with us today.
Thanks. Everybody's mood is a lot better when the Chiefs win. I don't know if you've noticed that. The other thing I did want to bring up is, we talked briefly about high school basketball. The high school teams in this area, I know Smith Cotton has won their 7th game, and they only won 6 last year. I think they're 7-3. And I know Sacred Heart's doing well. And there's a lot of other schools in the area that are doing well. So, hey, you know what? Don't have anything to do some night? Go out and watch a high school basketball game. It's pretty exciting, and sometimes it's pretty intense. I've kind of enjoyed going back and watching games. I don't go to every game, but I do go to several of them. So congratulations to those teams early on here in the season, both men and women. And Smith Cotton's women's team's doing very well too. So go out and see a game sometime. Maybe you'll see Cliff Callis there.
Sure might. Or Tim Anderson.
Maybe.
Folks, thanks for listening again to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with former basketball player, coach, and now broadcaster, Tim Anderson. Come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.